Be a Real Gamer podcast, everybody. With me, Alex, Donnie, and our special
How you
guest
doing?
today, RivalXFactor.
Hello, everybody. Hi, internets.
Welcome to the interwebs.
Yes.
It's probably pretty terrifying for all of you guys. It's okay though. We're all.
That's not my first rodeo. I think I'll be okay. I hope. We'll see. Time will tell.
That's if Alex doesn't troll you midway through.
There you go.
This actually isn't a podcast at all. This
There
is
we go.
live to go. This is live to no one.
Well, it'll be pre-recorded for their downloading pleasures later.
So I guess the big news is that you were at the Dice event for Battlefield 4.
Yeah, that was Crash and Dice and EA invited myself and Level Cap and Sturm Gravy out there and a couple other guys, and we had a blast. You know, obviously we saw the video that you guys saw, that 17 or 18-minute live gameplay where they had some supercomputer playing it. So, that was a lot of fun, but, the bigger thing for us was kind of like the after party. It was a real nice time, and we got to hang out and meet each other and get to know one another and exchange some pretty cool stories, whether it's about editing or rendering or, just Battlefield stuff and, kind of how we all got into gaming. So that was fun.
Which is it's always great to be able to interact with your peers and.
Now, we've been getting this question a lot from people, is they tend to think that the next Battlefield is going to be a lot more system intensive.
My thought process is this. The footage that we saw was alpha, and it's very pretty. They played that at 3K resolution, then down rendered it to 1080p, and they were still getting 60 frames. But I think it was a dual GPU setup, something similar to my setup per chance. But
Okay.
I don't think it's going to be this monster of a requirement. I think it's going to be 5 to 10% frame loss from whatever you're getting now. But again, a lot of people, they fall in love with, hey, I got to play this game on Ultra. Well, if you play the game in Ultra, then play it on low, it's hard to tell the difference. But the difference between the two frame-wise could be 10 to 20. So if you're one of those people playing the game at Ultra, getting 60 or 65 frames, you'll probably be able to play Battlefield 4 with your exact same rig, but drop it to medium or a couple settings to low, and you'll be fine. Because again, people don't realize how important it is to have at least 60 frames while gaming. If you've got a monitor that's capable of more, it's really beneficial.
I can tell you from my own personal experience, while I do love playing on the higher settings, that the difference between 45 and 60 frames is a pretty big difference.
Yeah, it comes down to fluidity and recoil control. Some people, some of my community members, my subs say, hey, man, I only have 30 frames. My computer doesn't, my screen doesn't look like that at all when I shoot my gun. And that's because they don't have the frames to properly counter that recoil and make it a fluid, dynamic thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I for one have always been a frames guy. I'll play the game on cardboard mode if it gives me 120 locked-in frames. And the funny thing is, I don't play COD much. I just do it to blow off some steam, and I play it. I don't need to, but one of my subs pointed out, said, "Man, your frames are locked at 200 the entire time." Now that's overkill. But I don't have a frame issue, and I don't have a lack of fluidity. If you have a lack of fluidity and you're playing at less than 60 frames, you're handicapping yourself. You don't even realize it, but you're putting yourself at a disadvantage compared to anybody else who has at least 60 frames.
Absolutely.
Which, I mean, if you're playing on PC, you really should be getting 60 frames.
If I can chime in on the intensity of Battlefield 4. One thing that I know for certain is that Battlefield 4 will be the first PC game to launch with 64-bit processing enabled. What that means is that you're going to be able to utilize more of that RAM you have. So I think while the game will be more intense, I think it's going to utilize your system a lot better. So I don't think if you've got a system that's running it on Ultra right now, I really do think you're going to be able to run it fairly high settings still. Probably not as high as you're running Battlefield 3.
And let's talk about what Battlefield was designed for in the first part. Battlefield 3 was console in mind. It's a cross-platform game, and it was on a different language. Now, these next-gen consoles, they're all the same language. So next-gen consoles and PC are all the same language. Was it x86
Yes.
architecture? So that's the same language. So what happens now is Battlefield 3 was kind of piss poor optimized in certain maps and certain expansions. I think it's going to be optimized a lot better now because that same game is going to be running on next gen consoles with hopefully boosted frames. Hopefully they'll be able to play at 60 frames, and hopefully the maps will be more than 12v12. Maybe they'll get 16v16. I don't think they're going to get 32v32, but I think they'll get at least 16.
I think I heard the max was like 40 something on the next gen consoles.
It could be 42 or 48.
I wouldn't expect the Xbox to get any more than 16v16 just because of the way they don't use dedicated servers and that somebody in the match is hosting the match.
Oh, that'd be horrible for Battlefield 3. So we know what happens in the COD world. And you're on that somebody's server.
Actually, no. I'm sorry to cut you off, Donnie, but I'm pretty sure that a couple of my friends actually rented servers for that game.
Yeah,
so I think there is dedicated servers.
If there's not dedicated servers,
the only way there would be on 360 is if DICE themselves are hosting the servers dedicatedly, like I believe Call of Duty does that for the elite users in certain situations.
We'll see.
We just got a question, and it's from Coney, and he's asking, would you suggest a 120 hertz monitor?
Yes, if you can push the frames. Some people say, hey, man, I've got this GTX 460 and an AMD 4-core processor. Should I get a 120 monitor? The question is, maximize your settings and then watch your frames. If you can stay above 90, 80, 100, 90% of the time, go pick yourself up a monitor. You're going to see some gains. But if you're running at 60 frames or less and you can't push your frames anymore, no matter what the settings, you're wasting money. Go upgrade your CPU, go upgrade your GPU, make sure you got 8 gigs of RAM. And RAM is cheap. If you're going to buy RAM, buy it now.
Absolutely. And if I could just reiterate what he just said, as far as GPUs go, if you want to be able to play 120 hertz in most games today, you're probably going to want, at least as far as NVIDIA goes, a GTX 670.
Yeah, 660 even, a 660 Ti. That'll push 120 frames off a nice i5 or i7. So I've got a buddy who he gave me his demo on a multiplayer, and he gave me 2 different maps. It was locked in at they're dips, but I have dips too with my setup. He had dips of 70s and 80s and certain 64-man servers, but for the most part, Metro Bazaar saying locked in 120 frames no matter how many people.
Yep.
Oh yeah. With an i7 Sandy Bridge and a 580, you could get over 60 FPS without a problem.
Yeah, 580 as well. You could pick something up used on eBay and do pretty well. You don't have to have 120 the whole time.
The 7970, AMD 7970 is also a really good card for getting that kind of frame rate.
Oh yeah, that'll push.
That's not too expensive. I think you'll find them for sometimes 260 right now, actually. So
yeah. The AMD's got some nice cards out, and their drivers are somewhat legitimate now. Back when I started gaming, I actually used to use all AMD product. I was a 965 overclock guy, and I had AMD cards, and just the drivers, guys spending a couple more bucks were getting 10, 20, 30 more frames and not having the driver crashes and issues, and I abandoned that ship. But I'm kind of glad to hear that AMD's back performing again because that means competition.
Absolutely. Competition is always good.
And it's good for the consumer.
Well, I'll say this. I personally think that for the price that you can get a 660 Ti, you can usually find a 7870 for a little bit less.
Oh,
and
probably.
in a lot of people's budgets, that might be the difference between, getting a nice keyboard or a nicer mouse or, maybe even the monitor that they buy.
Yeah. The price difference between the 7870 and the 660 Ti is about $100 depending on where you go, and the performance difference is usually 5% either way.
Sure.
Meaning sometimes in some games the 7870 gets 5% better, the 660 Ti in some games gets better.
Yeah, and the thing that people always ask, and I have a lot of console community members. 50% is probably console. But a lot of them are slowly switching to PC, and they're like, hey, do I need this, this, and this? These guys are overbuilding these systems because they want to run it on Ultra, and they don't realize the difference between low and Ultra. It's hard to tell. It is extremely hard to tell. But that you could save yourself $300 or $400 by running the game in low, running it at 60-plus frames, and have a competent system for now and in the next year, which you can easily upgrade for $700.
Yep.
You could build a system to play BF3 at high frames.
I just built a guy a system yesterday, as a matter of fact, for for $600 that had a 6-core AMD processor and a 7770, which is a 1 gig graphics card.
There you go.
And that
You'll play
thing's
at
playing
60,
Bioshock
60
Infinite.
plus frames.
You know, it's playing everything.
Yep,
So,
60 plus frames. He's good to go. You know, and later in life, he can upgrade the CPU potentially, or add in another GPU, or just upgrade the GPU.
Well, I mean,
exactly.
I just built a rig for somebody that was really close to my old system, and it was a 6950, an AMD 6950, and an AMD 6-core processor. I think it cost like, I want to say $600. And I mean, that thing can run Battlefield on medium and get about 90 frames, 90 to 110 frames.
Yeah, I started playing Battlefield 3 on a GTX 460 and an AMD 965 overclocked. While recording, I still got 60 frames on most maps. And that was vanilla, because we're talking beta. And then early, you know, the first month of release, then I said, well, I want more frames, you know, so let's make some changes.
Yeah. Yeah, I run an Intel 3820 and GTX 680, and I mean, I get an average of like 85, 90 FPS on Ultra.
Yep, that's enough.
Yep. And I didn't think we were going to talk this much about hardware.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty surprised. But back on the Battlefield, one of the most disappointing things for me personally, and I'm sure you've talked about it already, is the lack of competitive modes in Battlefield. And the lack of the competitive support, and I really think that was more on DICE than anybody else in the community.
It really kneecapped the community and the sport, because let's roll back a couple years ago in previous Battlefield titles. We had Spectate, we had Battle Quarter. Now, of course, they're on different languages, right? They're on a different basis. But the problem was, you know, DICE, they're big in the competitive scene. They're like, yeah, we're going to build this, we're going to make it happen. Well, at the end, they pulled the rug from us, and it never happened. Meanwhile, they tried to get Battlefield 3 approved for MLG. MLG doesn't take anything unless there's a means for them to tout it, market it, and govern it,
And
which that comes with Spectate, and that comes with Battle Recorder. So you've got a scene that started off great competitive scene for the first 6 months, completely died off. Now look at League of Legends, look at StarCraft 2, look at Firefall, look at Shootamania, all these games. I mean, League of Legends is huge in the marketing. 250,000 people watched the last live stream tournament. That's insane. You need these tools to be able to market and promote your game and promote the competitive atmosphere and allow it to grow. Without these tools, no game will ever be as competitive as it should be and can be, nor will it ever succeed on the competitive side.
And I mean, I actually read something that Blizzard said that apparently they have more unique users who watch StarCraft more than there is people who tune into hockey games.
Oh, absolutely. I guarantee that. The esports market is a growing market, and it's scaring cable companies what YouTube is doing, Hulu is doing, because people don't turn to the cable networks anymore. They turn to their computer or stream their computer. I watch my computer from my TV. I have remote login with my Apple TV and all that crap, and I don't watch a lot of TV anymore. A lot of people, you know, subs of mine or community members of mine, they don't even have Battlefield 3. They just like watching my videos every once in a while. And the same is true with me. I've watched other videos. Yeah, I've watched a StarCraft video here and there. My APM is 2. I don't play the game. I don't, you know.
I've never played the game.
Yeah, but I like watching some of the higher end competition to see how these guys micromanage it, the talent that's involved.
It's absolutely amazing. I mean, I honestly got into it from watching pros and going, this looks really difficult. I want to try this.
Yeah,
and
it's
I'm
impossible.
Still got awful at it. I mean, coming from an FPS, it doesn't train you at all.
I will say one thing: you're kind of awful at it, but I attribute the fact that you've actually gotten the gold league in such a short amount of time. That's a big accomplishment.
I mean, I think the biggest part of it is that I really tried to get better at it, and you kind of take the whole getting the right idea about learning. That can help with pretty much any game you get into. And apparently, from somebody in the chat, he's asked a question. He says, "Who do you think is the best team in Battlefield right now, not counting Rival?"
It just depends. I'm kind of out of the loop, but there's probably 4 or 5 teams in Europe that are top notch. Obviously, in the North American scene, Rival Gaming has represented themselves well over the last 5 years, and including a World Cup win against Epsilon and Bad Company 2. So we're always in the mix, but there are some powerhouses over in Europe. That scene has been much stronger in Europe for the last year than it has in North America.
It
Europe's
got really
always had
quiet after
yeah,
the summer.
Europe's always had the ESL. They've always had the cups. ESL's been built into Battlefield 3 where it's in the game launcher. You start your match and it's already programmed into Battlefield 3. We need something like that stateside, which would help promote it. But again, without the tools, how much is it really going to grow? And, there's guys out there, Daskro. He's an amazing guy. He's been in the competitive scene since 1912, and he's helped with Level BF build a third party, build a spectate mode to work around the actual program, and he's trying to get this thing to go on his own. Well, he needs the support of DICE for this next game. Make it easier, right? So instead of handicapping, the community, we need a company that's going to back the community and say, hey, here's some tools. Go have fun. Go do what you want to do. And people don't realize, but spectate mode's not only just a means to market the product, it's also a way for us to govern our own. Hey, you think this guy's walling? Let's look at his footage. Oh, wow. He looks at the spot
Spectate
before
is
a guy
how
gets there every time,
That's how you ref matches.
That's it.
I mean, we had our own sort of community league in Black Ops 1, and we basically handled all the official stuff by just having game recording on. We just look at it, and you could tell the difference between a wall hack.
Every major tournament,
just looking at it.
Every major tournament requires a lot of these, Alienware and CEVO and a lot of these leagues, TWL, they have their own third-party anti-cheat, and then they require you to record as well, just in case there's some fishy business. And in the Newegg tournament, not this year, last year, team got caught aimbotting. It happens.
Oh yeah, and unless you have a spec mode in there,
it was
it's
a
really
bad
hard to
company.
take care of.
It makes it much more difficult.
It was a Bad Company 2 Newegg tournament, and these guys were rotating who would aimbot, and even in their footage, the guy, the one quote was, I can't remember what map it was, but they're shooting like through 3 or 4 wood walls and just dropping people in 2 shots. It's like, yeah, that's legit.
Well, I mean,
That's terrible.
That kind of thing is kind of hard to do when you have something like the StarCraft community or even the Counter-Strike community, where there is literally somebody sitting there,
Govern their own.
No, I mean, like, there's actually somebody casting the game.
Yeah.
How do you? Somebody will look at that and they'll be like, "Well, that looks kind of odd." Well, the cast is going on,
It's and that's the thing that's great about these leagues is they will always govern their own. They'll take care of the mess themselves.
Yeah. You just need to give them the tools so they can officiate.
And market, more importantly, market. The tools to
Absolutely.
market to help grow the sport, grow the game. Because League of Legends, that wasn't that big of a development game, but look how big it is now. It is massive.
Yeah, it's doing pretty well for itself for a Dota clone.
Yep, pretty much.
I mean, I have my own feelings on that game, but it is definitely a really, really successful game.
Yep, it's a replayable game. It's a game that people can get behind and get excited about.
I just really hope that we push those tools. That DICE puts those tools and pushes that for Battlefield 4. Because I really
DICE
think
learned.
that game would be amazing.
I think DICE got more back flack for Battlefield 3 than they ever anticipated. They got their goose roasted on a couple occasions in a very public manner, and I don't think they're going to make the same mistake.
Yeah, X Factor, just for some of the people who don't really understand exactly what we're saying here, what are some of the features you want to see in Battlefield 4, specifically for the competitive market?
No suppression, or a way to at least turn it off server side. I don't think suppression is a gun mechanic that should be in a competitive shooter.
Perhaps customizable attributes altogether?
Yeah,
and so they
robot.
can-
You'll be able to turn off a certain attachment, like if the noob tube. There's leagues that we've played in, and noob tube's not allowed. You can use RPG, but it won't even let you equip it, right? So you can't make the mistake. Or no tack light on primaries. Can't even select it, right? So, map modes, things like that. And then, of course, spectate mode, battle recorder, the nuts and bolts of the competitive scene. A way to look back on the footage is always great, whether you're breaking down the other team's footage, their pushes, or just figuring out your own mistakes you made. So you can see yourself on a macro level and a micro level, right? So that's what we hope for. That's what we used to have in previous Battlefield titles. Obviously, not Bad Company 2, and that's what this community needs again to really survive and thrive as a competitive game.
Something I really miss from my Halo days. I think the last game to have it was 3, but it might have been Reach. Don't want to be. Was Bungie had it set up that when you went on Bungie.net, you can see a list of all the maps, and it'll show you where you do well at and where you're not doing well at, and which weapon you're doing it with.
The hot and cold zones for you.
Yeah,
basically.
and it was very
It was
detailed,
awesome.
and it was lots of data. It helped you really manage your game better because you figured
Sure.
out, well, all right, so on my practice time, I'm going to start being more in this spot. Not specifically, okay, I'm just going to be working on this map. No, I'm going to be working in this sector of this map now.
Sure.
Well,
So I
very-
can figure out what I'm doing wrong.
For me to do that now in Battlefield, I have to actually look at my own recorded footage.
Yeah. So
that's-
more data would be great.
Data is always welcome, and one group that does that well is the Plant Side 2 group. Those developers,
Yes.
they're probably the best developers in the game, best community in the game, because they listen
They're
to feedback from the
fantastic
community, and they have this roadmap system where our input matters. They're thinking about changing an aspect of a game, you better start chiming in. They're going to listen to every educated answer. Now, if you go in there like a troll saying F this and F that, they're not going to listen to you. But if you go in there with some pros and cons, you're going to help mold the future of that game. And they don't leave you in the dark. They let you know everything they're thinking. They're in this transparent little glass bowl. I think a lot of developers are starting to switch to that model because they've learned how successful a company can be with operating like that.
And listening to
Absolutely.
the community.
That's it. There might
Now-
be horrible ideas, but you just say, hey, thank you for the feedback, but we don't see that in the vision of our game. But here's some other things that could be coming down the pipeline.
Don't get me wrong. I really think DICE does try hard to listen to the community. They at least they entertain the community too. You know what I mean?
Well, you could definitely see that with Suppression, where they buffed it and nerfed it about 6 different times. What is it? Probably, I think it's actually about 3 times.
I think we're on 3.0.
Yeah.
It's definitely very different from what it was when the game launched.
I wish
Okay.
we had the game launch suppression. That was a much toned down version, a little added recoil, a little added deviation.
I would
but
love to see it only for say LMGs and to be lighter than it actually currently is now.
Yeah, anytime you add, you're rewarding a different style of gameplay. You're taking the skill base out of the gameplay. Because let's say you have a better shot than me, but because I shoot you first, or shoot around you first, maybe not even hit you, I now have a 90% chance to beat you, whether it's 15 meters away or 40 meters away.
Which,
You
by the
know?
way, it really does aggravate me because I don't have the quickest response time, but I do have a fairly good accuracy. So it's like I'm getting killed by guys who are just spraying when, I'm always the most precise shot. It's really
Yep, and that's
nervous.
the thing. You look at other shooters that, previous Battlefield titles, you look at Counter-Strike. Guy starts a gunfight does not mean he's going to win it. He who's
No.
got the best recoil countering and aim and precision,
That's one thing-
positioning is definitely going to win.
That's another thing I do have to attribute to Halo is it's not about your response time; it's about your accuracy and your movement.
Yep.
Well,
Positioning is key in any shooter.
Absolutely.
I
If
think
I outposition you, maybe only my chest is showing, or I just peeked you while you're looking the other way because you're in the middle of the map. I'm probably going to win that gunfight 90% of the time.
But so many games have moved away from really rewarding accuracy in general, especially on the console with all the aim assist there is. I can't count how many times I've gotten shot in the head from a guy who literally aimed at, my ear. like to
Yeah,
the right of it.
and that's a lot of my console community members are like, hey, we wish aim assist was gone. Hey, should I use it? Should I not use it? I can't pipe up on that. I don't know the console game enough, but I just know enough people kind of in the console world look down upon it, and say it actually hinders your gameplay because
I generally disable it, but the problem with that is if you're playing, maybe if you're in a public match, you disable it and some guy has it enabled, he might have the upper hand on you. It all depends.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, we did it in our own clan where we turn off aim assist in practice, and then when we turn on aim assist, it was just an extra little thing there. But yeah, I personally wish that there was a way to just disable it in competitive mode completely, because when you look at It's
Oh,
kind
that
of hard
should
to
be
me.
given in competitive mode. There should not be some mechanic built into the
It
game
hurts.
to help.
Yeah, that's-
help
It
you.
hurts my head because
By the way,
it's
there isn't a global setting frame assist. You can't in a custom match turn it off globally for everybody.
no, it's a
Everybody has
setting.
to go
You
in.
have to manually turn it
Everybody
off.
has to go into their own
It's
controller settings and
it's
turn it off.
something that personally bothers me because if you look at the Call of Duty World Championships, I don't want to lie. I think it was the winning team got 4 million and the team that came in second got 2 million.
Mhm.
And for that much money, you really should take off stupid cheap stuff like that. The fact that
Yeah.
these guys are playing with it, and I hate to sit there and say I'm so much better than these guys, but you just look at some of the mental thoughts they come up with and their crisis management in game, and I go, really?
Well, that's kind of what the mod system is about, where the tournament can dictate the settings, period, end of story, whether suppression's on or off,
Which would
this
be
is on or
wonderful.
off, and that's where it leaves it up to the community to do whatever they want. Whatever league, whatever map settings you like, it's there. Hey, you want friendly fire with 100% health still? Here you go. Instead of, and that's the one thing Battlelog's working on is better filtering systems for these custom servers. Because
Yeah.
I like friendly fire. It keeps the spam down. I love
Absolutely.
friendly fire.
That's very true. That's very true. And playing on pubs for so long, you get used to having it off.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing that I'm really disappointed in DICE on is the lack of a release of an SDK. You know,
Or at least a map editor to some point. I understand the business
It's just-
side of it. It's just
you need to give the community the things they need to be able to customize and change the things that they don't like about the game.
because
I
if
don't
there
think
was an
we'll see
SDK,
that
it wouldn't
ever.
happen, period.
I don't
Yeah.
think we'll see that in an EA AAA title ever again
Probably not.
because you're taking the money out of their hands. You're taking the
Yeah.
control out of their hands. So
I personally think
It
if there
eliminates
was an
the need for people to buy DLC when all this user generated content is being created. That's just as good, if not better.
yep.
I mean, I would have said if they would have made it for premium members only or something specific like that. They're just not going to do it though.
Yeah. But-
Somebody actually asked in the chat, should Battlefield 4 have a bigger headshot multiplier?
It just depends what type of gameplay they're going for. I don't think it will, just because that's going to stay with the Battlefield world of things. It'd be cool if it did. I'd kind of like that. Or it's a customizable setting and reward the guys with just that twitch, that high accuracy, but that could create some issues. And again, it's games have now come down to, hey, how do we cater to the masses? What skill set do we go by to kind of cater to the masses and not the 5% of the game? Because if you double the headshot multiplier, where let's say an M16, a headshot from 60 meters drops you, right? Because you're cranking that value up. People are going to be pretty upset because they're going to be dying a lot, and
Yep.
That's going to change the way the game plays out. Everybody's going to play head glitch spots.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's going to be slower pushing, working for that. Lower the damage. I mean, that's kind of like the Counter-Strike model. Headshot hurts. Doesn't matter if it's a pistol. The AWP, it hurts.
Yep.
Battlefield, it's kind of forgiving. Most situations, to get that headshot kill, it's a second or third bullet. It's not the first or second. Sometimes it's the
Yeah.
fourth bullet, depending on the range.
But that being said, I like the fact that it requires more bullets to drop people. People used to say that's not good, but I personally think it takes more skill, especially with the recoil that's in this game, to be able to keep the target on somebody for 3, 4, 5 rounds.
Yeah, that's
True.
the thing. It's recoil control.
I'd like
It's
to
the
see
same.
more developers take, the old Bungie approach to things, and that just give me a whole huge list of settings where I can just change things that I didn't even think I needed to.
Yep.
And that way, the people who run the server or the private match that they're doing can go ahead and fine tune everything the way they want it to work.
Well,
So
that's the cool thing about like this moddable system is, don't go ahead and judge DICE's work. You put everything. If DICE puts everything on a toggle, suppression on and off, friendly fire on everything, the cream will rise to the top. There might be some crazy server concoction mix that becomes the most popular setup instead of just core versus hardcore.
yeah, and that might be the one that's adopted, to the major gaming leagues and whatnot. And
Yeah, friendly fire will always be on. It'll always be 100% health. There'll always be a mini map, and that's all. That'll always be tournament mode.
I would personally love that.
now, me and Alex here actually had a conversation about Battlefield. as far as the classes go, if you'd like, would you like to see anything different with the way the classes are set up? You know, the kind of weapons
really
you're allowed to
liked-
use and
I
stuff
really
like that.
like the Bad Company 2 class setup. Snipers, had Pokeballs. They had C4. The medics had the LMGs. The assault players had the noob tube, but the assault players should have had stronger rifles in that game. They probably should have had the LMGs because you could outshoot somebody with an MG36. You could outshoot somebody with an M60 versus an assault rifle most of the time. So if you're going to not give an assault class a med pack, give them the stronger rifle. But I think the Bad Company 2 classes were very, very well balanced. And I think they gave them pretty much the right abilities.
Fair point.
Um,
I didn't actually play that much Bad Company 2, so I can't really agree or disagree.
well,
But-
Great game.
me and Donnie specifically talked about moving the med pack away from assault because the weapons on assault are bar none the best all-around weapons.
It's
If
pretty
you
clear
could-
that Assault is the best and most overpowered class.
Any class done right is pretty well. I mean, even as a recon, if you're dropping your Mav or Tugs, holding down a flank, pushing a point, that Mav and Tugs is OP if used properly. A lot of these people who complain aren't utilizing the class properly. Now, what's nice is Medic is strong. Engineer is really strong. Somebody hiding behind a wall, blow it up. Tank coming, shoot it in the ass. You can't
That's
replace
true.
those two classes. Now, support, you can replace that. Recon, if they know how to use their beacon properly and their Tugs and Mav, that's hard to replace. That's nice to have one or two in the mix on a pub server. In Bad Company 2, when I scrimmed, I played the Bush Wookiee. I used a VSS with the Pokeballs. And that was a strong role. Is it as strong in Battlefield 3? No. But there are certain maps where somebody would scope. A lot of 4v4 rush, there was probably a scope. For the beacon, we weren't allowed to use the Mav. It was more of a Tug. Mav was outlawed. It was a Tugs because you could glitch a Mav into third and fourth stories where you couldn't get it unless you had another Mav to shoot it down. It get used. A scope would be used in Domovan Peak. A scope sometimes would be used in Metro. Sometimes, there were certain maps where you had a scope.
Yeah, one of our strats on defense was that we had on 4v4 rush, we had one guy just spotting with a scope in the ticket booth.
Yeah, well, another one was what's it called? Shit, I gotta think of this one, but it's a vanilla map. But yeah, there was literally, I'm gonna look it up now. There was literally 3 or 4 maps where there might potentially be a scope, but in 5v5 and 8v8, you never saw scopes ever.
Mm-hmm.
We really didn't get involved honestly in 8v8. We really didn't have the amount of consistent players for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would definitely see the sniper. In comp uses, I honestly never seen support used.
Very rarely, unless there's a nade spam breakout, or you want to go shotgun slug with the nades, to refill the nades. More importantly, because in a lot of this competitive stuff, there's especially 5v5, there's set nades for certain maps that you think you're safe. A nade's going to land on your chin, and you're going to ask for salt and pepper because you're done.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
That's something we kind of learned from Call of Duty really quickly, and I mean, I know that I did. I don't know about. I mean, I think Donnie did too. To know where the nade spots were and where you were going to die from, because
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
Call of Duty is just filled with nade spam. Especially if you played since Call of Duty 4, which had a perk where you could have 3 nades to start with,
Yeah.
Oh god.
which is just yeah, that was rough. You'd have
You got
have
every
a-
guy on the opposite team with 3 grenades, and the moment they spawn, they're spamming them in all the spots they know that you're going to be walking in.
It was
Yeah, you
scary
can
in
hit
4v4s.
this spot within 12 seconds. There's a nade bouncing at your feet. That's what those breakout
Yeah,
nades
we
are.
used to in our clan we used to practice the slow count. Count before you go through the door. Count
Yeah,
before you walk down that
pixel
path. Because
pixel shots.
odds are, but by the time you count to 4, that grenade's already exploded, and it's within a nice range of you that you didn't get any
Yeah,
damage.
and there's pixel shots in that game where you can shoot through this wall and that wall and catch a guy pushing
Absolutely.
this lane, and that's the micromanaging that is competitive. You find out every single advantage, every spawn point, the spawn rotations. In Bad Company 2, you could spawn block. How to block this set of spawns so you only had to look 2 directions instead of 4. You know, there's a lot of that stuff. In Battlefield 3, there is spawn blocking, but only in a handful of spawn points. In Bad Company 2, it was a much higher percentage, and you could easily control the spawns if you're trying to cap a point, you know, a contested point. So, and that's half the battle of competitive is having that proper information, knowing every single spawn point at that flag, and knowing what the enemy team is doing. Terran Highway, that's the map where there'd be a lot of scoping.
Okay, Terran Highway. That's I have to ask you a question. What do you personally think about all of the people who play Call of Duty and are switching over to Battlefield?
I think it's great. The more, the merrier. You know, if you're a positive person with a skill set and you know don't want to act like a 3-year-old, and that goes to Battlefield players too. You know, I've got this thing where you know it's I don't appreciate the lower education levels, and it could be a 30-year-old man acting like a 5-year-old. I don't appreciate that. You know, there's not a place for, you know, all the crazy name calling and just the, you know, your mama stuff and this and that. And, you know, we've all seen COD footage, you know, of how people behave. And, you know, I think Battlefield is a little bit different. It still happens, but not as often. I know that.
I mean, I gotta really call this into play right now. I watched the Call of Duty World Championships, and the captain of the team that won, the captain of the Freako team, I forget his name, but he was actually in a live stream. He actually streams a lot, and he was like, you know, there's like, I think about 1,200 people in there. It's like, so which one of you guys want to play? Want to play with me? He's like, well, too bad because I'm pro and you're all garbage.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
It's
Like
what is...
there is a sense of a elitism with certain people, and I don't get that. I don't get that because back in the day, I was the biggest noob ever to walk the earth. You know, and I'll never say I've mastered anything or I'm better than everybody else out there. That you know, and I built my channel around that. Hey, I'm a guy. I understand certain things. I understand the mechanics of the gameplay. Let me help teach you some things, but it's up to you to execute them.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, that's one thing that I really have to thank you for, X-Factor. You are one of the few professional gamers that I've seen that if somebody asks you for advice on the game, your answer isn't just, you know, try hard and be pro.
Yeah, it's I'll give, you know, if you come at me with like a lot of my comments, my community's great. They don't yell at each other, they don't throw mud at each other. You don't get the console PC elitism going on. It's people helping people. If you got a problem with certain aspect of the game, I probably don't even have to answer it. It's already answered by somebody else who has a knowledge of that skill set or that mechanic, and it's great. So that's what I really like about my community is it's people helping people. And
yeah,
there's the trolls get weeded out. You know, I can really pride myself on not having trolls in my community because they're taken care of by the others.
Quite a bit of my my Battlefield 3 game I can attribute to you. Actually, one thing I can say that I picked up off of you was I noticed that when you play medic, every time you post up in a certain spot when you're behind cover and you're getting ready for a dogfight or something, you throw out a med pack in front of you.
Get that bag out.
Range.
Yep.
And I do that.
Gonna need it.
It's literally I throw those things out so much.
I do it.
Whenever somebody watches
tutorials.
me play that don't know Battlefield, they're like, "Why do you keep throwing boxes out?" I'm like, "Oh, those are med packs." I'm like,
yep, I do that in tutorials. It's so hardwired into my brain. I'll chuck one out, then I'll start doing, you know, like my some of my series, How to Be a Better Noob, or you know, Breaking Bad, Battlefield 3 Habits. It's so entrenched in my brain. I'll throw one out because you're going to need it. You know, what's better than being in a gunfight and slowly regenerating health or not having to take that gun out of your hand once that gunfight starts? You talk about losing battles at 1% health, 2% health, 3% health. Guess what? That guy's probably sitting on a med pack. He gained just enough health during that 2-second incursion or 5-second incursion that he's got a bigger health pool than you. Whose fault is that? Yours for not understanding the mechanic or his for using the mechanic, right?
Absolutely.
So,
I got yelled at for using the bag in pubs before.
I don't know how somebody could do that.
All is fair in love and war. If somebody understands the mechanic better than me, I'm not going to blame. I'm not going to yell at them. I'm going to say, "Nice shot." I'm going to say, "Well played." Because they outthought me, or they outworked me, or they outshot me. It's not. I got no excuse for that.
One of my worst habits that I just can't seem to drop in every shooter is that I tend to reload when it's not necessary.
I do the same thing.
And this forces me to be I'm just not ready for somebody who's just coming.
Because you can't hit somebody.
And then I just get caught, and I'm like, wait, I'm still reloading. wait.
That I do that too, but one of the things that I've noticed about my gameplay is if I'm in a safety position, I reload a lot. If I'm in a more of an advanced position, I'll hold it down until I've got 7 or 8 bullets and the coast is clear. Sometimes I get caught off guard if the zombie horde's coming at me and I just weeded through 3 or 4 guys and I'm out of everything. You can't fix that.
Yeah.
The question is, how do you fix those more advanced positions that you've ascertained, right, and not get caught there with your pants down? Try to get down to 4 or 5 bullets in the mag, because you can't kill somebody with 7 bullets. You can kill somebody with 5 bullets point blank. You can't be suppressed, and your aim's got to be spot on, but you can. And point blank is 10 meters.
I think one of the things I definitely have to work on is not reloading when I'm out in the open, unless I'm really just down in my clip.
Yeah, you want to be, if you're transversing from one cover to another cover, you want to be reloaded before you re-peek your head to move to the next spot. Because if you're mid-reload while moving, you're a sitting duck. You're a free kill. That's the biggest habit to break, is when
You're a
you
defenseless target.
Yeah, reload under cover. You know, sometimes you're going to get caught off guard because you killed one guy and there's 2 more coming. Okay, you're in trouble. You're going to die, regardless of what's going on. The question is, how do you minimize your own issues while reloading? Right? You put yourself in these situations. Nobody puts you in them. Mm-hmm. So that's the way I like to word it. You know.
Yep.
Well, when you say moving for advanced positions, I immediately think of playing a map like, say, Metro, and that really rough fight that's always when you're playing Conquest in B, when you're trying to move up in between the areas.
Yep, if you're at ticket booth pushing those guys out, that's an advanced position. If you're just working that B flag area and they're still huddled around, that's an advanced position. You know, I posted plenty of clips of, you know, me running through 5, 10, 15, 20 guys, lickety split. There's a little bit of luck involved in that too, but it all comes down to micromanaging almost every bullet. You know, where that one magnum bullet's got to hit somebody in the head to clear out that last squad. Mm-hmm. You know, and some of those moments, it's better to be lucky than to be good.
I mean, I had a couple of my friends who want to get into Battlefield, and I started posting some videos up. It's sort of in your style, and I just kind of wanted to explain to those guys the amount of thought that goes in your head when you're playing.
What's up?
Oh, the you know, it's a juggle. What's going on the minimap? What's my squad doing next to me? Who's dead? Where are they dead? What are they pushing? Zoom out the minimap. What's the enemy doing? Where are the friendly health kits? More importantly, where's the ammo bag, right? Because I'm probably out of ammo. What flags are flashing? What flag do you have? Where do you think you're pushing? Where do you think you're getting pushed on? So, you know, there's a million things that go on. Where's the armor? Where's the air? Is it down? Is it on a timer? There's a million things. But the more you can juggle, the better off your results will be, because you're educated. Once you become an educated player of the situations around you, your results double, triple, quadruple. And, you know, the cool thing about my community is they're always giving me feedback. Oh my God, I just tried this and this is what I did this round. Or I just partnered these 3 things together and it's light and day difference in close quarter situations. You know, and that's the thing is I want to give you guys, or I want to give my community the tools to become a beast. Not as good as me, better than me. Because you can probably execute better than I can. And, you know, that's where I get my gratification from, is when I get 1,000 messages a day, 800 to 1,000 emails, comments a day, and most of which are, this is the greatest thing ever, thank you so much. I'm doing my job at that point when I'm helping people improve their game by teaching them mechanics and thought processes. And that's it. I mix a little fun in my channel, you know, and there you have it.
I mean, we've been trying since we started this to get people to become better gamers by giving whatever tools we can, and we've been using. It's something that a lot of people just don't know the right way to think. Just the little things you have to do.
Oh, you know, a lot of people just think it's incredibly difficult to get, you know, at a higher skill level, and they don't even want to try.
Well, that's the other thing. Maybe they don't have time. Maybe they don't want to try, you know, but my community is here for the people who want better for themselves and want a better understanding and a better experience for the game. And, you know, I'll give to them as much as they want, right? Because my channel exists when you click on a video to learn a specific subject. That's up to you, whether you want it or not. And that's the cool thing. I'm here to help make the community a more positive, better, functional place. So that's my, I don't do the trolls and lulls and the ha ha he he. That's not my channel. I'll mix some funny moments in, but my channel is helping you not be as frustrated with the game because there's a learning curve there.
There is definitely a learning curve to Battlefield.
And that's it. I want to help eliminate that, for you as an individual and you to better my rounds, better my situation, better my results. That's the goal because I'm 31 years old. I've got, I'm on the downslide of what's called a peak gamer. Now when I was 22, 23, I was a beast. My Twitch aim was insane. Now I'm an old man in the gaming world. So I've taken more of a seat of a teaching role.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can definitely tell you that as difficult as it might seem, and switching from console to PC, which I did for Battlefield 3, that was my first real PC competitive game in any way. I did play CS, but I never really got into it. And I could tell you this: I was god awful when I started. I go 4-12.
I think that's everybody's FPS story. Mine too. When I first started, I was a 1-to-1 KD guy. 3 months into PC gaming, and then it started to come along, and I learned. My first game I started playing with Cartel. Who runs him and Cassio and a couple other senior members run Rival Gaming. I played with those guys in PlayInside, a couple of them, and I learned from them. They passed down, hey, here's how you set up your mouse. Hey, dipshit, your sensitivity's too high. Go fix it. And I started there. And then I started learning recoil compensation and my surroundings, and it's building blocks. It's just like any sport you play, any subject, if you're a school student, there's building blocks. If you're in advanced algebra, you don't start with chapter 13. Nothing's going to make sense. You start with chapter 1 through 3. Get those building blocks because everything else follows.
Yeah, I feel kind of bad when like mine and Alex's younger friends when we put them onto a new game, and if we yell at them about things, they get really discouraged really quickly, and it's like
we really try not to, but when we're doing on a 1-to-1 basis, it's kind of like, hey, come on, jerk, you need to take cover. Come on now.
Yep, and that's the thing. It's let them struggle with it, and and that's something you have to learn through your own hands. You have to learn through your own eyes and head. So you can give them the tools, but they need time to work that in. You could set me in a new game and have the top pro teach me the top 100 things, and I guarantee you I can only apply a few of them at a time. It's going to be a work in progress.
Yep. And
Absolutely.
that's something I told some people that want to get into Battlefield. It'll take you at least a week or so to
Absolutely.
try to understand the game. If you play it a lot, it'll take you a week or so.
Yeah,
It took me about 2 months, honestly, to adjust. But still, though, because it had such a steep learning curve, is why I fell in love with it. And
And the next Battlefield is going to have a steep learning curve. It's going to be Battlefield 3.5, but some of the mechanics are going to be the same, but there's going to be some new stuff. So
well, I told one of my friends that wanted to get into the game. They're like, they saw some of the footage that I put on YouTube, and they asked me like, what's a score you got recently? And I told them I went like 35-3, which
nice.
I mean, score. It's a really good score, and I told them that it's really, there's so many factors that come into play besides just my skill. It's about understanding the map. I got at least, I want to say 7 or 8 kills just because I knew how to flank people.
That's it. Positioning is power.
There's actually a video that I have up where I went, I think it was 25-7 on Damavand Peak on the first 2 bomb defenses. And most of those kills were just going up and flanking the snipers and the guys on mortar, because the whole team was pushing left side. I came up right side and started hitting the guys in the hill.
There you go.
That's something that sounds really simple, but being a guy who just gets in, it's so easy to get, there's rockets, there's mortar coming down, and you don't know how to deal with it. And then here comes a helicopter coming flying in.
Well, Al, not to cut you off, but I think that we're a little bit over our time.
It's dinner time in the X Factor family.
Very good. I hope you enjoyed that. Everybody
thanks for having me, guys.
Right now,
yeah, X Factor,
Go ahead.
It's been fun. It was great talking
thanks for
to you.
having me.
We're actually giving away a copy of Battlefield 4 on PC. Just let me bring up the link for.
You mean Battlefield 3?
Battlefield 3. I'm sorry.
We're not that cool. We don't have Battlefield 4.
No, we're not.
If you did have Battlefield 4, that'd be cool. Because I still even have Battlefield 4.
Yeah, X Factor gets the first copy we get. Okay.
There you go. But thanks for having me, guys.
I actually heard that you're giving away copies. Is that still going on for the knife challenge?
To the end of the month. If you're on PC and you knife me in a UROC gaming server, take a screenshot, go to my page, follow some simple directions, and you get a shot at winning Battlefield 4 copies, mouse pads, which are real nice that I actually personally use, 6 of those, and 20 VIP slots to the 10 servers that I belong to.
That's
very,
pretty cool.
very cool.
Definitely check that out, guys.
Yep. Thanks again, guys.
Wonderful.